Hi, Robbie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Morning, Steph. How you going?
Good, thank you. So, we're going to get straight into it and we'll start with some quick fire questions. So, who are you? What was your sport? How long did you compete for? And what are you doing now?
Cool. So my name is Robbie Gaspar. My sport was soccer or football. I first probably started playing professionally when I was around 16 when I travelled to Croatia, and I finished up probably just before my 32nd birthday. So those are. I think there was another question there at the end as well. Number
And
four.
what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? I'm sort of working for a little startup company in the agricultural tech sector. Been there now 15 months. Really enjoying that, but also I'm the president of the Indonesian Institute, which is the leading voice on the bilateral relationship between Australia and Indonesia, or independent voice.
Wow. Okay. So, you got a lot going on. Congratulations on the amazing career and what you're doing now as well. It's unreal. Excited to hear a bit more. Did you have something outside of sport to work towards whilst you were still playing?
I did do a few things outside of sport. One was towards the end of my career, I was lucky enough or nominated and then I was elected to the board of the Indonesian Players Association or Players Union. I was on that board for 2 years. So I was pretty passionate about athlete rights. Sort of invest a little bit in property. While I was in Indonesia, also learning the language. So there was a few things that sort of kept me busy. Could have done more, probably, yes, but like when you're playing, I think you're sort of in that moment and just sort of enjoying it, but also doing little bits and pieces outside of it, so as well.
Definitely. No, it sounds like you did plenty. I wouldn't be worried about that. So, what made you want to pursue these things whilst you were playing?
With respect to the Players Association, I was passionate about the players and sort of making sure that they had a seat at the table with respect to like collective bargaining agreements, negotiating with the federations about better how do you say it, workplace conditions and so on. And we had a few issues back then with respect to like non-payment or delayed payments of players' salaries and so forth. So we're just that's one thing I was passionate about, just sort of making sure that the players are looked after and treated, like the way they're supposed to be treated. The property stuff, I think everyone not everyone, but a lot of people are passionate, in Australia, about investing in property, and I was lucky enough to do a little bit of that while I was playing, but also learning the language. I felt that old probably enjoyed my time a lot more whilst I was in Indonesia if I learned the language. And what I noticed when I first arrived in Indonesia was that the players that did learn the language, that made the effort to learn the language, actually had longer careers in Indonesia and probably developed better relationships. And so I made a conscious effort to learn, Bahasa Indonesia. And that was some of the things that kept me busy whilst I was playing as well.
Yeah, unreal. So it sounds like you kind of fell into the Players Association, but once you realized that you wanted to learn the language and find out more about property and invest in property, how did you go about doing that? So once you realized you wanted to do it, how did you actually make it happen?
So if we go back to the property stuff, probably back when I started playing, there wasn't that much you had the internet, but where I was based in Indonesia and Malaysia probably wasn't as accessible as it is right now. It was just really picking up the phone and speaking to people, catching up with people for coffees, asking as many questions as possible before you do make that decision to step into the property ladder or, purchase a property. And so I made a conscious effort to when I was back home, I'll call people, catch up with them for coffees. But with respect to learn the language, that was really just trying to spend as much time as possible with my teammates, catching up with as many people as possible. I had a little pocket dictionary back in me just before we had, you had your apps on your phones and that. So this was like from 2006, 2005, 2006 to almost 2012. And so it was just really, get the pocket dictionary out, like going through the newspaper, I'll see, that word, what does that word mean? And, if I did hear a word that I didn't understand, asking the question, what's this word, what's that word, and so forth. And, it was just just making a conscious effort to try and learn it. So, so how do you say it? With the language part, it was just getting your hands dirty, just rolling your sleeves up and have a crack
Determination and
and not,
proactiveness.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not being afraid to make a mistake.
Amazing. I love it. So one final question. What advice would you give your younger self or another athlete who finds themselves in the same position?
Just enjoy the journey. Also, you probably one of my coaches had this really good saying that I sort of really live by today as well. That's sort of, you don't meet anybody staying at home, so make the effort, catch up with people. You know, go for a coffee, take the time out. Because I think like a lot of your sort of potential opportunities further on down the track come from your networks or your relationships. Like that you build along the way. So. This new role that I've got sort of came about through a friend of mine that I met 10 years prior, and sort of, we sort of had a couple of sort of, similar passions, and we sort of kept in touch. And then I remember he sort of maybe a couple of years ago, Rob, I might have a potential, like sort of opportunity for a job for you. And I go, all right, cool, no worries. And then, sort of 6 months later, he came up to me and goes, oh, Rob, would you be keen to sort of jump on board and sort of get involved? And I said, yeah, why not have a crack? And I'm really enjoying it, getting out of my comfort zone and doing something different outside of sport.
Unreal. So good to hear, Robbie. It really sounds like you forged your own path throughout your whole career. And it was amazing hearing about it. So thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Steph. Appreciate it.